What's up, guys? I'm Landon from Shoe Wearing. Today we're checking out the second version from this New Balance two-way shoe line. Let's do it. So today we have the newly released New Balance two-way V2 in this bubblegum colorway. If I named these, I probably would have gone with something like cotton candy, but this is just such a pretty color scheme. But today I'm going to be breaking down like how these shoes look and also how they perform. But first, for some of the basics, these retailed for $130. That is going to be pretty middle of the pack. I wouldn't say that New Balance releases a ton of basketball shoes, but this is going to be cheaper than Kawhi's line, kind of right around where the New Balance Omnis line was at. And honestly, I haven't even gotten around to testing out the first two-way release from the shoe line, but it actually did look like those were retailing for $140. And if that's true, New Balance already dialed back the price a little bit, and that would be weird, but I guess it is definitely possible. And this is one of those models that, it doesn't look super retro, but it does a little bit. And it doesn't look super new tech, but they do a little. So I don't know, if all the shoes are going to come this way, but these are going to get like a mismatching tongue setup with two-way text on the right shoe, I believe. And on the left shoe, you're going to get like a nice little smiley face there. And then on the inside of the upper is going to be like, these pink and blue, or I guess on the outside of the upper too, is going to be like these pink and blue lines. And they might be like arrows, kind of like to symbolize going both ways, since this is like, the two-way model. And I say that because there are some actual arrows pointing in both directions at the bottom of the lacing setup. And then you're also going to get a speckled midsole that's really clean. And I like the blue splotches that they tossed on there as well. And then on the heel, there's going to be this pink and blue, like, New Balance patch. And I will say this, there's definitely some details going on with this shoe. Like, there's a few different pieces. The two-way V2 just isn't like, some, basic looking shoe per se. But now let's go ahead and see how these shoes hold up on the court. So now looking at more of the materials and the performance side, and starting off with the cushioning, there are a few different pieces being used for this section. You're going to get a fuel cell foam setup in the midsole, and that's actually marked out on the heel of the shoe, and that's just there to help drive you forward according to New Balance. And then using our durometer to measure the softness of that midsole, that reading did come back at a 36.5, and honestly that is pretty average among other basketball shoes. It's not going to be abnormally high or low number there. And then you're going to get what they call an absorb heel cushioning to give you additional stability and comfort. And basically it does exactly what the name implies, or that's what it's supposed to do. It's just kind of there to absorb shock from the inside out whenever you're landing. And New Balance calls it gummy like. For a shoe that has this many lines of like details for the cushioning setup, it's not like super impressive. And what's weird is that, of the New Balance basketball shoes that I have tested, and that's not many. Really, it's just like the Kawhi 1, the 2s to this point, along with these. And I think I did like the New Balance Omnis line as well. But I haven't been super impressed or like gotten the softest feel that I kind of expected from their lines. New Balance is kind of known for putting out comfortable lifestyle shoes from like the 327s, the 550s, the 997s. It's basically just a bunch of numbers, but I just haven't felt that soft and cushioning from their basketball shoes so far. But honestly, these do play a little bit soft, like a shade softer than the Kawhi 2s. But for the two-way V2s, they just don't have, a feel like they're going to be multiple layers of cushioning in that setup. These give off a little bit more of a budget-friendly feel without being quite as low in retail price as you would maybe want. So expect a little bit of break-in time for this shoe, but I haven't really felt them loosen up much yet. So now looking at more of the materials and the support, I actually talked about this a little bit in my first impressions, just because you can actually see it on the inside of the upper, so I knew that this model gets a fit weave light upper that is supposed to keep its shape for targeted stretches and support, while also giving you an extra lightweight feel. And I honestly think it's pretty cool whenever shoes label what's being used on the actual model. Like, you got fuel cell on the midsole around the heel, and then you got fit weave light on the upper for these. So honestly, it just gives me a little bit more to talk about when I'm doing my first impressions video too. But this is actually the same upper material that is used on Kawhi's newest shoe, the Kawhi 2s that I got right over my shoulder here. So I just say that because it doesn't really feel the same quality or even just feel the same in hand. Like, I was honestly a little bit nervous about this shoe in the beginning because it doesn't really feel all that premium whenever you're just like holding them, but there is definitely some really good airflow for this upper. It's a really light shoe, like a size 10.5 only weighs 366 to 368 grams or so. And that's way lighter than most basketball shoes, especially if you want to call this a mid-top shoe. It definitely does look like more of a mid-top shoe than a low. So, less materials going in will clearly lead to a lighter shoe. But with that, I always kind of look for something to come along and help a little bit with the support. And I think the closest thing that these get is like a small rise in the midsole, where they do help a little bit with keeping your foot from like sliding out of the footbed. There is a little bit of movement to the upper, I won't lie about that, but not an amount that honestly concerned me. Like I said, you should feel a targeted stretch so your foot doesn't feel like it's in a straight jacket, but not more movement than you'd want. And I'd say the V2 pretty much checks out that way. To finish off with traction, these get a data-driven outsole, but I think New Balance calls it a turbulent radiance pattern, and honestly that's probably the best aspect of this shoe. I mean, right from the jump, the traction is what stood out the most to me. And I mean, whenever we did our squeak test, that pretty much just adds to the point that these are going to grip the floor well. You can hear them, kind of making some noise in the backdrop. And I say this once again, this is probably a spot that the two-way V2 would outplay both shoes from Kawhi's line. I just feel like the traction is better on this model. And you are going to have some thicker grooves, so not a bad shoe to hoop in for outdoors at all. I mean, the cushioning is not going to be stellar, but it is going to be good enough. And then to finish off with sizing, I did go true to size, and the length is going to be perfect. I did have about a thumb's width, and the New Balance doesn't generally make narrow shoes. These are going to be standard width. I don't know that I call them wide either, but overall there are some things to like about the second edition to this New Balance two-way line. I'd say the biggest attraction would probably be the grip, but I mean, between the cushion, materials, and support, I will be honest, it's pretty average across the board, especially for a $130 shoe whenever you're looking at the performance side. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. If it's your first time here, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching, and give this video a like if you liked our video. And if you're interested in buying these shoes and you want to support our channel, just click the link that we have here on screen, or we have links down below or in our bio, so feel free to check that out. But that wraps up this review. Until next time, I'm Landon from Shoewear. Peace.